Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'm Don Arleth, and you're watching World News Tonight, coming to you live from Warsaw here on TVP World. Ukraine gets $500 million more in military assistance as the Ukraine Contact Group held its last meeting under the Biden administration in Ramstein, Germany today. But will it be the last? And what's the big deal with Greenland? Why would it be so important for the United States? We'll seek to answer these questions later in the program, but first up, let's take a look at tonight's headlines. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico threatens to cut off aid and energy supplies to Ukraine. Poland will not arrest Netanyahu if he chooses to attend the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And a farewell to former U.S. President Jimmy Carter. The United States pledged another $500 million in military aid to Kyiv today as its allies met in Germany under the Ramstein Contact Group. The format, launched to coordinate Allied support for Ukraine, is meeting for the 25th time and possibly the last, as the new Trump administration is just about to take office. Marek Steele has more.
A special guest at the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in Ramstein, Germany, President Zelensky.
It's clear that a new chapter starts for Europe and the entire world just 11 days from now, at a time when we have to cooperate even more, rely on one another even more, and achieve even greater results together.
This possibly last meeting of the format was a chance for Biden's outgoing administration to boost Ukraine with a new aid package.
We must not let up, and that's why I'm announcing today another presidential drawdown authority package valued at $500 million. It includes additional missiles for Ukrainian air defense, more ammunition, more air-to-ground munitions, and other equipment to support Ukraine's F-16s.
On January 20th, Donald Trump takes over the White House and uncertainties mount over future support for Ukraine.
Ukraine needs our support, and it can rely on Germany, and it will continue to need a Ramstein format for this.
Will there be willingness to continue on the part of the new U.S. administration? We are preparing for the continuation of this leading role of the United States. Without it, it will be very difficult to achieve such capacities in this format.
Kyiv's allies are preparing Ukraine for what seems to be imminent peace talks with Russia.
We have to bring Ukraine in the best possible position that one day, when talks would start, at the initiative of Ukraine, on how to solve this conflict, that they are in the best possible position to do that.
We must bear in mind that the negotiation process is already on. A new president, still President-elect Donald Trump, is planning to have negotiation between Russia and Ukraine. And I'm afraid to say that most likely Ukraine will have to give away some of its territory.
Experts seem to agree that Trump's recent promise to end the war within 6 months would have to include territorial concessions. According to a recent poll, nearly 2 in 5 Ukrainians are open to conceding some territory while preserving independence in order to end the war as fast as possible.
Ukraine and Moldova have announced they are cooperating to alleviate the energy crisis in Moldova following Russia's decision to halt gas supplies to Transnistria. Our Ukraine correspondent Oz Keregi is in Kyiv with the latest.
The Moldovan government and the Ukrainian government have decided to work together in partnership to try to ease the energy crisis facing Moldova, triggered by the Russian state energy company Gazprom's decision to stop sending gas supplies to Moldova over what it says are unpaid debts, although this is something that Chisinau strongly disputes. Now, this energy crisis is particularly affecting Transnistria, the breakaway region, Russian-occupied breakaway region of Moldova that is experiencing critical energy supply issues, rolling blackouts, power shortages, heat shortages. So this is a major issue in Moldova. Now, President Sandu put out a statement saying that they are seeking alternative measures such as coal, and President Zelensky used his nightly address on Wednesday evening to say an important task now is to help Moldova overcome its energy challenges. forces and prevent Moscow from stirring up social tensions. So it just goes to show that Russia's use of energy as a weapon certainly isn't stopping at the borders of Ukraine. It's Oz Kataji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico threatened to cut off aid and emergency energy supplies to Ukraine if Kyiv does not resume gas transit from Russia. The Slovak leader was in Brussels today to share how his country's been impacted by the halted gas flows from Moscow. Our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, files this report from the Belgian capital.
From retaliatory measures and threats to a working group, the European Commission and Slovakia have taken markedly different directions in terms of figuring out how to resolve an energy crisis that is escalating between Kyiv and Bratislava. Now, the Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico was in Brussels today to discuss with European Commission officials the impact of Ukraine's decision to halt gas supplies from Russia through Ukraine. This decision was announced late last year by the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who said that he would not seek to renegotiate a contract with Gazprom. Now, this is Russia's state-owned gas company that has been relying on Soviet-era pipes in Ukraine to transit gas through that country and through to other member states. This includes Slovakia, with Robert Fico stating that the country was at risk of losing hundreds of millions of euros as that company transports gas to other member states and makes a profit. Now, the European Commission said today that they would establish a high-level working group to get into the weeds and figure out a solution that does not resolve into an escalating geopolitical spat. Now, it comes as another energy crisis rips through Moldova's Transnistria region. That country is plunged into blackouts with no solution in sight just yet. But what we can see here from the Belgian capital is that a circuit breaker in the continent's energy crisis is needed. My name is Angela Skujins reporting from Brussels for TVP World.
Poland will not arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he decides to visit Poland to attend the anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz Nazi concentration camp. The Polish government has had a plan in place to guarantee security to any Israeli official all along, says Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. This follows the Polish president's letter to the prime minister asking him to allow Netanyahu to attend the anniversary, despite the Israeli prime minister's arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. Kazimierz Wysiak and Paweł Trzaskowski have the details.
Poland will not arrest Benjamin Netanyahu if he decides to visit Poland to attend the anniversary of the liberation of the Nazi Germany Auschwitz concentration camp. This comes from Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
I would like to emphasize that any representative of the State of Israel who wishes to participate in the Auschwitz commemoration will be guaranteed security.
Tusk's declaration came after President Andrzej Duda asked for special protection for the Israeli leader due to the exceptional circumstances of the anniversary.
I confirm that the President has sent a letter to the Prime Minister regarding providing the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, with the opportunity to participate in the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz camp, should he express such a wish.
The anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz traditionally sees top Israeli officials attend. This time, Israel will be represented by the country's education minister. The controversies concerning Netanyahu's attendance stem from a ruling by the International Criminal Court in The Hague to issue an arrest warrant for Netanyahu for alleged crimes against humanity committed in Gaza. As Poland is party to the ICC, it would technically be obligated to detain the Israeli Prime Minister the moment he set foot in the country.
Ukraine has become a new topic in the Polish presidential campaign. The candidate of Poland's opposition, the Conservative Law and Justice Party, has ruled out supporting Ukraine's EU and NATO membership bids, under the condition that the country does not account for the massacre of Polish civilians during World War II. These words signal a divorce from the party's pro-Ukrainian stance, which prevailed ever since the launch of the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine.
As head of the Polish Institute of National Remembrance, Karol Nawrocki has been dealing for years with the most delicate issue in Polish-Ukrainian relations, the Volhynia massacre. Today, he says he will not support Ukraine's aspirations to become a member of the EU and NATO if its leaders do not account for the massacre from more than 80 years ago.
I do not see Ukraine in any structure, neither in the European Union nor in NATO, until such important civilization issues for Poles are settled. A country that is unable to account for a very brutal crime against 120,000 of its neighbors cannot be part of international alliances.
The statement is a departure from what incumbent President Andrzej Duda, once a Law and Justice Party candidate, has been saying since the start of the Russian invasion in 2022, that Poland fully supports Ukraine's Western aspirations.
Until now, no one has questioned that it is in the interest of Poland, our security, to have maximum NATO involvement and an open door for Ukraine. What Mr. Nawrocki said, let him confess first and foremost to Jarosław Kaczyński and say what this very unwise and very dangerous statement is all about.
Karol Nawrocki and Tusk's party candidate Rafał Trzaskowski are leading in the polls ahead of the presidential election scheduled for May.
Elon Musk, the owner of X, has sparked public outrage by hosting German far-right leader Alex Weidel in a live stream on the platform just weeks ahead of German elections. While some are merely intrigued, others argue that the move could even be illegal. Sonia Agata-Biszczan has more.
Elon Musk had already shown his sentiments for Alternative for Germany ahead of his X livestream with Alice Weidel, the leader of the far-right party.
Only the AfD can save Germany.
As Germany approaches its February 23rd elections, the AfD, known for its pro-Russian views and a push to leave the EU, is polling second behind the center-right Christian Democrats and their sister party. Some say Musk's interest in the German elections reflects a pattern of supporting far-right politicians in line with his backing of US President-elect Donald Trump with over $250 million in the election campaign.
President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America.
But Musk, the Tesla tycoon, could also have greater personal stakes in the German elections, especially considering the major Tesla manufacturing plant east of Berlin.
One of the dangers for his companies would be strong European regulation regarding car safety, regarding autonomous driving. So he fears strong European regulation. And supporting the AfD weakens Germany as a country.
It is difficult to predict what impact the live stream could have on the German election results. However, a recent survey conducted by the Forsa Institute found that Musk's endorsement has not particularly benefited the AfD so far, and this is unlikely to change now that Musk has become a negative figure, according to the Institute.
Thank you, Tomasz. And the follow-up.
Nevertheless, even the European Commission showed an interest in the situation, especially in light of its Digital Services Act, an EU regulation aimed at protecting digital spaces.
Nothing in the DSA prohibits the owner of a platform or anyone to host a live stream and express his personal views. This is allowed. What we will look in the context of the current proceedings is the systemic risks that can come from certain practices on the platform, including such a live stream.
But even if the DSA does not inherently oppose the live stream, the event raises concerns under German law.
In German election law, for example, there is an obligation of parties not to accept donations from outside of the European Union. And when he suggests to organize an online discussion with the head of one of the parties, that amounts to such a donation and is therefore illegal under German election law, under German party law.
A party that violates the German law has to pay a penalty 3 times the size of a donation. Granted, determining the actual value of an X livestream for AfD may be up for debate, but even if the event could persuade some voters, its impact should not be overstated.
We also should not overestimate, the role of social media. We still have traditional media, so and the level of trust vis-a-vis social media is lower.
On January 24th, EU digital regulators will meet with social media platforms, including X, in Berlin to discuss toolkits and guidelines ahead of the German federal election.
And now we cross the Atlantic and go to the Pacific coast of the United States, where firefighters continue to battle major wildfires in the Los Angeles area of California. The blazes have claimed the lives of 5 so far, and nearly 2,000 homes and businesses have been destroyed, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. All evacuation orders have now been lifted for those impacted by the Sunset Fire in Hollywood Hills, but many don't even have a home to return to. Alex Sumlinsky reports.
36-year-old Oliver Altnat has returned to both his current and childhood homes, only to find apocalyptic scenes and both houses destroyed by the fires ravaging Los Angeles. The Pacific Palisades, a hillside area along the California coast filled with celebrity homes, has been reduced to charred remains.
It's shocking. I mean, I was down to my knees when I got up to my parents' house with just sheer amazement at what I was looking at, which was basically just a chimney stack and a pile of ash. I mean, it's something out of a movie. So.
On Wednesday, hurricane-force winds ejected embers into the air, igniting fires in the coastal neighborhood of Pacific Palisades as well as in Altadena, a community near Pasadena. Hundreds of people who left their homes in the middle of the night found shelter at the Pasadena Convention Center as the wildfires consumed homes despite firefighter efforts.
Wind whipped up, the flames were up about 30, 40 feet high, and you hear pop, 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 sound like a war zone.
The 2 largest fires broke out on Tuesday. People returning to their neighborhoods find razed and charred remains of whatever they left behind. Yet despite holding back tears at what they see after having lost everything, residents still worry and hope for the best for everyone who lived in the neighborhood.
Don't know. I hope the feral cat's okay.
With at least 130,000 residents still under evacuation orders because of the wildfires raging across Los Angeles County, the area still has to brace for more days of fire weather.
Today in Washington, D.C., political leaders and ordinary Americans will honor the life and achievements of Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, who passed away at 100 years of age in his native Georgia on December 29th. President Biden declared Thursday a national day of mourning, which saw a state funeral take place at the National Cathedral in the U.S. Capitol. Sasha Farbach has more in his report.
Today, there's a somber mood in Washington, D.C. as the nation bids a final farewell with state honors. American political leaders and close family of former President Carter are gathering to pay their respects to a leader who will be remembered for his role during a challenging time for Americans, but also as a leader who contributed to the collapse of the communist bloc. Among those honoring him was President Joe Biden, who spoke in a eulogy of Carter's enduring traits.
Jimmy Carter's friendship taught me, and through his life taught me, the strength of character is more than title or the power we hold. It's the strength to understand that everyone should be treated with dignity, respect, that everyone, and I mean everyone, deserves an even shot.
The late President Carter left his mark on history, in particular with foreign policy. During his time in office, he presided over the Camp David Accords, which brought peace between Israel and Egypt. However, there were also trying times and failures. The Iran hostage crisis in 1979 was a low point. It was human rights which served as the moral anchor for America's engagement with the world during his administration, according to U.S. Ambassador to Poland, Mark Brzezinski, in an exclusive to TVP World.
Soviet totalitarianism crushing the human rights of the citizens of Eastern Europe was something reprehensible to President Carter, but also an opportunity to undercut the superpower challenge that the USSR presented to the United States.
President Carter's use of human rights to inspire the national identity movements in the Soviet bloc were vital in the struggle and ultimate victory over communism. Carter, in one of his first trips abroad, came to Poland at the end of 1977, just as the Solidarity movement was in its infancy, and America ensured its success.
My father, as National Security Advisor in the late 1970s, used to come home and share with his family, us kids at the dinner table, how he would sign off on transfers of literally blocks of cash being smuggled by the CIA into communist Poland to be given to the Solidarity movement to support their activities.
These efforts by the late President Carter, combined with those of President Reagan, would undercut the Soviet Union and ultimately allow the Solidarity movement in Poland and other similar efforts in Central Europe to thrive. As Americans pay their final respects on Thursday, Jimmy Carter will be remembered fondly by millions, also in the heart of Europe, for his pivotal role in allowing these nations to regain their freedom and sovereignty.
Ukraine received a final $500 million in military assistance at the Ukraine Contact Group meeting in Ramstein, Germany today. It's the 25th meeting in this format, and questions remain whether it will continue under the Trump administration. And now joining me to discuss this and other issues is Martin Sklenar, Globsec Distinguished Fellow and former Defense Minister of Slovakia. Hello, sir, and thank you very much for joining us on World News Tonight.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Yes, now the Ramstein Contact Group held what could be its final meeting. When looking back, since it's the 25th meeting, it started back in 2022, how effective do you think this format was, and what exactly did it achieve?
Put very simply, it was tremendously successful in mounting the support that Ukraine needed in the beginning of the full-scale aggression of Russia against the country. It showed the unity of the international community of the Western group of countries, including partners as far away as Australia, Japan, South Korea, New Zealand, all came together in unity, in strong unity, and basically demonstrated their strong commitment to supporting Ukraine as long as it's going to be necessary. Now we know that it went across several years. We are closing on the third anniversary of the war. So Ramstein in this case was very, very successful. Exactly in this, showcasing the unity, but also making sure that the donations that in the beginning of the war and in the scramble that followed the aggression might have been a little less effective, but once the group started working, the coordination among countries started taking shape, and bigger and bigger projects started happening, and bigger donations and more important capabilities started to be available to Ukraine from donations from these countries. It opened a great channel for dialogue between all the countries, not only NATO and EU countries, but also across the globe, as I said, with Ukraine about the situation, having objective information shared right away and from the source from Ukrainians, making sure that everybody is aware of the concrete requirements, and the effort, the international effort, can be as effective as possible. And also later, translated into more formal institutions or initiatives like the NATO support and training for Ukraine that we have seen come out of the most recent NATO summit. Today, we have seen that the countries have agreed on specific roadmaps for specific capabilities to continue supporting Ukraine in specific areas. So really, this is a very, very nice success story from the international community under the leadership of the U.S. and especially Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin.
Yes, and let's hope this continues underneath the Trump administration. Now, I'd like to switch gears just for a moment and talk about Greenland. How important is it for U.S. strategic and national security interests, and how important is it for Europe, for instance?
Well, obviously, and the context is the statements of incoming President Trump as he made his press conference. I think it was yesterday. Greenland is a very important piece of geography that we see in the northern part of the Atlantic, and even statements of President Trump show the importance that this part of the world is gaining, not only in economic terms but also in military terms, as we see the climate change progressing and opening up trade routes, but also with trade routes opening up space, it means it's also usable for military activities, and I think what President Trump wants to point his finger at is that this is something that is going on, and the U.S. as the country that is also strongest in the northern part of the Western Hemisphere, but is also most vulnerable in a sense, needs to see what are the national interests also from a national security point of view. Let me say also that statements like this are to say diplomatically, are not very constructive. I would even say that they are a source of concern because Greenland has a lot of autonomy from Denmark, but still is part of the NATO territory, and is part of a territory of a NATO ally. And having the U.S. president make this kind of statements towards other NATO allies and other countries also in the region is simply concerning, and is not a way in which we were used to doing things with the United States, and is also a source of concern because it opens up opportunities for opportunistic players like Russia, like China, like North Korea, to maybe work a little bit on the potential conflict there, and sow some discord between two or more allies, and exploit whatever conflict and friction and tension might be available there. So Greenland is important. We know what is the current situation, which works towards strengthening United States national security as it is right now. If there are needs to improve this, we can certainly look for those, but maybe we should have started from a different angle first.
Certainly. Now, Donald Trump, one of his major campaign promises was to end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours before even taking office. Now he's saying about 6 months. Is this a sign that he's become more realistic to the complexity of the issue?
Well, certainly, and it also shows that campaign rhetoric is something else than rhetoric is different from actual possibilities, what you can actually do, especially in foreign policy and in complex situations like the war in Ukraine currently is. So it shows also that as Donald Trump is receiving his briefings and maybe even has some discussion with his closest colleagues like Mr. Kellogg, his potential envoy for the Ukraine. For the Ukraine-Russia war, those might have an impact on what President Trump's perception is, how this can be solved, and how quickly it could be solved.
Yes, well, we've been speculating in the media about this and exactly what Donald Trump will do for quite a bit of time. Without any further speculation, or trying not to speculate, are you confident that, and we're almost out of time, but are you confident that Donald Trump will indeed choose the right path and won't throw Ukraine under the bus, as they say?
I'm certain that a discussion about what it would mean, not only for European security but also for U.S. security, will certainly be had in the U.S. in Washington if it has not already taken place. And I'm sure President Trump will understand the severity of the situation. But I would also like to see and give the time to people working on the Trump 2.0 administration in Washington D.C. to see also what is the prevailing opinion also at the lower levels of the administration, to see what are the real expectations that we should have from President Trump and his team.
All right, Martin Sklenar, former Slovakian defense minister and a Globsec fellow, a distinguished fellow. Thank you very much for joining me today on
Thank you very much.
World News Tonight. Thank you, sir. And that concludes this edition of World News Tonight, but do stay tuned because On the Record with Adam Yasser is coming up next.